returned to the country under very hazy conditions exactly a week ago, rather than provoke a euphoria of happiness that our president has returned, hail and hearty. No, the reverse has been the case. Nobody in government has claimed to have seen the president. All those who need to see him say they haven't seen him. So today, the 100 days anniversary of this saga, all eyes are on the presidential villa, where the Federal Executive Council will be meeting. Will it be the last for some members of the cabinet? Will the acting president take the bull by the horn and dissolve this deeply divided cabinet? Or will he simply continue to bid his time, as he has been doing, something that portends a lot of danger? It remains to be seen. Suffice it to say that this issue has dominated the polity. Attempts to discuss the issue in part yesterday on the floor of the House of Representatives led to a very bitter row, forcing the House to go into an executive session which lasted over 2 hours. Honorable Patrick Obahiagbon from Edo State had raised the critical question of the deployment of troops last week to secure the arrival of a president, even without the knowledge of the acting president and commander-in-chief of the armed forces. At another stage, another member had also raised the issue of the secrecy surrounding the president's arrival, suggesting that the president is a hostage in the hands of some people. But as it turned out, these motions were deftly killed by a House leadership largely seen as not on the side of the majority of Nigerians on this issue. And how did Obahiagbon feel after the whole episode? Let's just listen to him for a while, but I plead with you, please look for your advanced learner's dictionary, because you might just need it to be able to understand what Honorable Obahiagbon has to say.
When the ship of the Nigerian state was heading for avoidable cataracts, icebergs, and oxbolecs, both chambers of the National Assembly thought it worthwhile to be able to steer the ship of state from that deleterious ambience. And in doing that, we conferred by way of a resolution the status of an acting president and commander-in-chief on the person of Dr. Goodluck Ebele Jonathan. Ipso facto and ipso jure, the acting president becomes the commander-in-chief of the armed forces. And section 218, subsection 1 of the Constitution is very clear. And if I must read that ipsissima verba, it says, the powers of the president as the commander-in-chief of the armed forces of the Federation shall include power to determine the operational use of the armed forces of the Federation. Section 8 of the Armed Forces Act is equally to that effect. Therefore, the deployment of troops last Wednesday by the Brigade of Guards or by whoever to welcome President Umar Yar'Adua, as far as I'm concerned, was a breach of Parliament. It's very clear. I have heard the defense by the military apparatchik to the effect that what was done when President Umar Yar'Adua came in amounted to routine duties. That is an argumentative fallacy that borders on the gen of fallacy called petitio principii, begging the question, and that has anchorage in another fallacious gen of post hoc ego propter hoc. You cannot say to me that no matter how routine it was, that the acting president and commander-in-chief of the armed forces, the former vice president, did not have a right to do. 300 soldiers, we read in the newspapers, deployed at the middle of the night, conveyed in about 25 vehicles, with weapons given to them at the wee hours of the night. Supposing the soldiers decided to have a change of mind. And the CNC was not aware. And we have been told that it was routine duties. I say cabudo rejectamenta to that. It was a breach, a violation of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Because when the National Assembly conferred the status on acting President Goodluck Jonathan, we did that pursuant to the powers given to us by the Constitution. And Section 1 of the 1999 Constitution proclaims the supremacy of the Constitution. Any other law, any other rule, any other convention that is inconsistent with the provisions of the 1999 Constitution is to that extent of its inconsistency null and void.
Honorable Patrick Obahiagbon, alias Igodomigodo, I hope you made sense out of all of that. I do. Meanwhile, an Abuja-based lawyer and human rights activist, Yar'Adua'S, has dragged wife of the president, Yar'Adua, before a federal high court for hiding the president from Nigerians. Joining the suit as co-defendants are the president's chief security officer, Yusuf Tilde, the chief of army staff, the national security advisor, and the senior special assistant, media and publicity to the president, Mr. Olusegun. Yar'Adua is seeking a court order directing the defendants to allow members of the Nigerian Union of Journalists, NUJ, the Guild of Editors, and Newspapers Proprietors Association of Nigeria to have access to the president. Adula also wants the court to hold that the secrecy surrounding the president's treatment and his return for a week now suggests that he is permanently incapacitated and should be declared so. But the most distressing signals came from the meeting of the governors with the acting president late yesterday night. The governors reportedly told the acting president to forget any dream about 2011. As the North, we produced the president. The governors also said the president is still in office and Goodluck Jonathan is only acting for him. And then the most unfortunate one, the governor said Dora Akuyele, the Minister of Information, and the only redeeming feature of the Federal Executive Council, and I dare say the only redeeming feature of the government for now, that she must shut up now and keep quiet and stop heating up the polity. Really? We now know this is all about northern interests and about 2011. Okay, what about now, from now to 2011? What becomes of Nigeria's interests and the interests of Nigerians? This presidency on crutches, whose interest is it serving? But back to the concerns raised earlier, what should acting President Goodluck Jonathan be doing today as the Federal Executive Council reconvenes, even in the face of all these surreptitious moves to undermine his authority? The president's medical report, which has now become public document, suggests that President Umar Yar'Adua is far from being fit to return to office. Our question is, has this not provided enough evidence for the Federal Executive Council to now act? How long can Goodluck Jonathan act as president? And as has been told by the president,